hopefully everybody is staying well and keeping safe. May we have an approval of today's agenda?
I vote to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. How about the minutes? Any omissions or somebody said they're still reading them?
And I'd like to apologize for just getting them out.
Yeah.
As you know, we are down to 2 staff people, and I will confess that all of the gremlins and everybody's computer found mine these last week, and so it has just been a little bit of a nightmare. So with many apologies for the delay in getting the minutes and the chair's reports to you.
Yeah, I just got mine this morning.
Yeah, if
Everybody got them at the same time.
If anyone has any corrections, just go ahead and send them to me on any of them, and I can make those adjustments later.
Yeah, thank you.
Like to make a motion to approve the minutes. I have no corrections, Bradley.
Did you read them, Chris?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, why don't we do an approval pending anything that people see?
Unless you want to waive them.
Why don't we do an approval based on
Let's do a pending approval. And,
okay, this is Trudy's voice. I am motion to approve pending any corrections that may be made later on.
I'll second that.
all right. Anybody in opposition to that?
No.
No.
All right. Hearing none.
And Lisa, thank you for getting it out this morning at least, so that we could read it. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
At least.
Thank you. No, I'm saying thank you. Don't apologize.
You're welcome, thanks.
Let's move
Okay.
into the reports if we could, since we have a busy agenda. So I won't go into all the details, but I will give you a fair amount. Obviously, everybody is aware that subway service is now 22 hours a day, which is better than the 20, but not near as good as 24 will be. Hopefully, we are moving in that direction. The trains are running anyway. Staff is being moved around. Many folks, including Pat Warren, have said we have learned a lot during the cleaning processes for the overnight cleaning, and obviously trains are still being cleaned during the day as well. If you've ridden lately, you notice how clean they are. I do occasionally see some litter, which I put on gloves and remove because I know that everybody is really trying so hard to keep the trains clean, and they really do look clean. But occasionally somebody will leave a cup or a pen or something on the floor, and sometimes I pick it up. You have heard and have seen, no doubt, in the news about all the sensationalist type crimes that are taking place. Some of these are absolutely horrific: the pushings, the shovings, the stabbings. There are additional police in the system. If you've ridden lately, you have certainly seen them. I thank them when I see them all the time. President Feinberg, or Interim President Feinberg, has asked for 1,000 officers from the city of New York. We have gotten 644. They're obviously not all on duty at once, but they are around, and they're not in places you'd normally expect. I've seen them on landings between platforms. I've seen them in places, not always by the turnstiles, but I do see them around. We want them walking around. We want them unpredictable, but we also want them near the turnstiles because the people that are committing these crimes clearly have not paid their fare. And if we can stop them at the turnstile, we would have stopped a lot of crime. And they agree with that. And they must be in pairs. That's a union rule. So you will see at least 2 together. But hopefully they won't be looking at their phones. They will be looking around because that's what we want them to do.
Andrew,
yes.
Is there a net gain, or does this amount just simply bring us back to where we were due to retirements and other losses?
It brings us back to where we were many years ago. I don't know if it's considered a net gain or not. I will get back to you on that. But it's definitely better than it was.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, this is Trudy.
Trudy, we recognize your voice.
Oh, okay. But I don't know if I'm getting through. Anyway, if you could let our dear mayor know that he has not given us everything that we've asked for, especially as it is police, because this morning in his, whatever it is, beat up on everybody, press conference, he said that he has not only that he is responsible for congestion pricing and he's going to get it through and all the rest. But then he said that he has given us all the police that we requested and then some. So maybe we could let him know that he hasn't given us that. First of all, he didn't do congestion pricing, but even more so that we are still 550 or 600 police short of what we requested.
We can certainly talk about drafting a letter to that effect, Trudy. Yes. There's a lot
Thank
that
you.
he hasn't given us that we want.
Yeah, and he's taking credit, for things that he had nothing to do with. Believe me,
He
I
made
know.
1 or 2 calls to Secretary Buttigieg, whereas people have been
That
fighting
was
for this.
after the fact in the last
Of course
2
it
weeks.
was. Of course
Okay,
it was.
but he did not. Let me not get started because I will then do a rant, which I don't want to do. Okay, thank you. But about
right.
the police, please let's let him know that we have not gotten all that we requested.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
There is a possibly troubling aspect in that there is a plan to not replace booth agents who are going on lunch breaks. This would mean about an hour and a half of stations not being monitored at the booth level. Obviously, TWU Local 100 is fighting that. I think some rider advocacy groups are fighting that. This would not be a good thing at all. So we hope this doesn't come to be. There are
We've
people
tweeted
that
out in
obviously.
opposition to that too.
Sorry, what was that?
We've tweeted out in opposition.
Yes,
to
we've tweeted, and it's not that. I mean, I'm talking about from a customer service viewpoint. The booth agents obviously don't stop fare evasion, and but they do help people who have inquiries. They do give out masks, which is a really important thing. One day I forgot my mask and went to a booth and got one. I will not make that mistake again. I happen to like the K95s better than the blue ones they give out, but this is an important service, and having a booth agent to answer questions is an important service. So I would hope this does not happen. There was
Psychologically,
yes.
Psychologically, it is a presence there, and it makes
Exactly.
riders, whether they do anything or not, it gives the impression that there is somebody there who people can turn to. And that's what people, more than anything else, at least in my, as I've heard from
Yes, that's
various
true.
people calling me. And
Absolutely.
maybe we can let that be known also. And the union, they have their own agenda. But for us, it's for the riding public that they need to have
And
that
many,
presence
and
there.
sometimes our agendas coincide with each other. So
Yeah. So
Um,
if we could again put something like this in writing or whatever, it would be helpful, I think.
yes, and
Whatever
I-
we're doing, we should put in writing, I think,
Yes,
or as a
we
letter
will
or a
try.
tweet or a something.
Trudy, I just need to reiterate for everyone who doesn't know, Sheila is leaving PCAC. So
No, I
it's-
understand that. If you want, I can. I don't have
Okay,
the whole
Trudy,
list to send it
all
out
right,
to.
that's fine. You can send anything that you're suggesting to me and we can take it from there. But I wanted to let
Okay.
everybody else know that Sheila is leaving PCAC.
yes, we're
So it
obviously
will be me
way
and
down
Bradley.
in staff.
And if you think it takes a while for us to get out the chair and board and reports and minutes with
Now,
2 people, I mean, this is an example of what it's going to be like. So
Well, would
Oh.
it be okay then, not only me, but other members of the PCAC, if we have something that should be directed, like in this case, to John Samuelson, I could send it to him and then just CC everybody else so that it gets out, and
I would say that it's preferred to send it through us.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so if you want to send it to me,
Whatever works.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you, I will be happy to do, just as long as we get it out somehow.
if you want to draft something and send it to me, that's great. It's not the sending part that's the issue. It's the putting it together
Okay.
part. If you
Okay,
want to
will
draft
do.
something and send it to me, please do. Thank you.
Okay, folks,
Okay,
Chris.
thank you,
Chris,
Lisa.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was gonna wait till you finish first,
Why is your hand raised then?
because I was waiting for you to finish your report. That's what I'm supposed to do. Raise your hand when you're finished.
Okay, let's move on. So yesterday there was a call with various members of the state legislature and advocacy groups about the governor's grab of $145 million that was earmarked for the MTA that was in lockboxes, but that would be used for the state budget. This was slipped into the state budget, and it isn't the only amount either. I think there's a far larger amount that is possibly in the offing to be transferred out from MTA. These monies represent the next fare hike or a service cut or a host of things. We cannot have money that was put in a lockbox for the MTA, hence the word lockbox. Somebody obviously has a key and is trying to take it away, and this is just not acceptable. So there was a really terrific event yesterday organized by a Riders Alliance that we were a part of, and State Senator Janaris was part of, and State Senator Comrie, and John Liu, and a whole host of elected officials. And now it is in writing, I believe, Lisa. I think you sent it out earlier. It is
It's
now.
going to go out next week.
It's going to go out next week. Hopefully we'll get it out to the membership so they can see what the gist of it is, who is signing on to it. But this is really bad. That's why we ask for lock boxes. And it should be pretty obvious why we ask for that. And this is the prime example. You can't take money that's earmarked for the MTA and use it for something else. That is not proper.
He's done that.
Somebody just said something.
That he's done that in the past.
Yes, this wouldn't be the first, but there are more eyes now watching, and obviously the governor's not in a good place right now. So people are really speaking up when they might not otherwise have done so, which is good. They should have done so all along, but I understand why they haven't. So as you have heard, apparently the Federal Highway Administration and Secretary Buttigieg are about to announce the type of environmental impact statement or assessment the MTA will require for us to move forward with what has been the law of the state for over a year and a half, but was obviously sat on by the previous administration, which is congestion pricing, which will bring in $11–12 billion a year towards our $55 billion capital program, which will make such a difference for New Yorkers moving forward in terms of service, frequencies, accessibility, extensions, just a host of things. So we look forward to that greatly. Then the governor will have to set up the traffic mobility panel. The panel will then decide the rates, the time of day, the day of week, all sorts of issues related to congestion pricing. Who will pay it? Will it be by axle? Will it be by, will for hire vehicles be exempt or pay a lesser amount? Just a host of issues that still have yet to be decided. But it appears, if this is all on track, as it appears to be at the moment, the MTA could start to see, assuming assuming that the readers get put in an expeditious manner, we could start seeing monies in 2022, early 2022, which would be great news. Again, there is the MTA, and but according to the chief financial officer, Bob Ferran, 2020 ended in a decent place, even though the MTA only got $4 billion out of the 4.5 they were hoping for, which left $500 million deficit. They have been cutting overtime, and they have been doing other types of savings, and tolls and other things have come in. Interestingly, fares have come in at a rate higher than was anticipated. So that helped balance 2020, gave a small surplus moving into 2021. And it apparently, Senator Schumer has said that in the new $1.9 trillion COVID relief package, the MTA will likely get $6 billion at a minimum. I was hoping it would be more, but perhaps this will take us through 2023 without service cuts. Now, the irony of saying this will take us through without service cuts is, and you will hear in a little bit when Jerry gives his report, that next Monday there are service cuts coming to the Long Island Railroad. And now there's also a bit of an outcry from elected officials who have heard what Senator Schumer, Majority Leader Schumer has said about the MTA getting money, which will forestall service cuts, and yet there are some coming. So stay tuned for that. As you all know, the fare hike has been put off. It is likely to be revisited in the spring. Otherwise, there will have to be new hearings to be held, and you know what that entails. But it's possible that it won't happen then. We have to wait and see. The capital program, which has been on pause for quite a while, is set to start again. There are a number of stations that will be included in the 2021 list for New York City Transit: Woodhaven Boulevard on the J, Queensboro Plaza, 181st Street on the A, Court Square elevator, and a portion of Court Square on the E and the M was just made accessible, as I'm sure you've all seen in the news. 34th and 6th and 7th Avenues, 8th Avenue on the CB, on the N train, Westchester Square on the number 6 line, a host of other elevators, and a host of things on 14th Street and 6th and 14th and 7th are being pushed forward to make them accessible. So work is, there are also commuter rail lines that will be made accessible. So a lot is happening. And speaking of accessible, the MTA has welcomed its new chief accessibility officer, who is now between agencies. It's for each Long Island Railroad, Metro North, and New York City Transit. Quamel Arroyo, known as Q. He is a Washington Heights resident. He is a wheelchair user. He knows what it's like in a hilly neighborhood like Washington Heights, and where he can and can't go. So Q is off and running, no pun intended, and is he's meeting with all kinds of groups. He's listening to people about what stations should be made accessible first. So we look forward to that taking place as soon as possible.
Andrew.
Yes.
Andrew said he's off and wheeling.
Well, I didn't want to put it in that term, but yeah, I could have.
He's been very, very active, and we had an accessibility, M&R accessibility, and he was there and happy to talk to anybody.
Yes. And let me just wrap up by saying that if you haven't already heard, the Chief Operating Officer, Mario Pelequin, who hails from Canada, will be leaving. I believe it's in this month that he's leaving. His family's in Canada. He was away frequently visiting them, and I guess some of the quarantine restrictions and other things have gotten to be too much. We don't know who will be replacing Mario. There are hints of major shuffles that might take place, but nothing has been verified, and I won't be reporting any of that. So, having said all of that, now, Chris, you have a question, yes?
Yeah, I'm just getting you. Andrew, the one thing you have mistake. It's the M&R trains that has the Woodhaven. It's getting. You said the J train.
Yeah, I was told the J train, the Jamaica.
Because they told us on the PowerPoint that I'm looking, it said M&R train as well.
I'm looking at what Jano gave out, and the Jamaica line, which is the J train, J
I
and Z.
agree. So there might be two of them now. It might be both Woodhavens, but
that would be even better.
Yeah, because when they put it on the board report, it showed all the lists. That's why I was like, oh, that's.
But
good.
the elevated portion of the J line doesn't really have accessible stations, so this would be a great thing.
Yeah. Yes, it will be, because then there'll be another way of people going to the Rockaways that way too, and all go to the mall. It will take some of the pressure off like, because the nearest accessible one, there is no accessible unless you go into the Rockaways, like Beach 116. You have to come all the way back. That's like ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, taking the bus along Cross Bay Boulevard. Yeah, that's a heck of a ride, though.
Yeah.
Out of your way, yes.
And you have to go almost to Jackson Heights. By the way, regarding the police, when I was doing mass walks on Thursday, it was good to see that cops were also on the trains. They have caught people not wearing a mask or getting into the system without a mask. So we have seen that. And plus, just the other day, 2 days ago, I was on the B44 Select. One guy thought he was funny to sneak in the back of the bus, not even pay, and he was ready to take off his mask. And the Eagle team came on Avenue L. So all I can say is I'm glad to see Eagle teams are back and running.
I haven't seen them in years now.
Well,
I'm glad
I
to
saw
hear
them.
you. I'm glad. It's wonderful.
Yes,
Great
on
to
the
hear that.
Yes, but Andrew, I hope we could get a chance, maybe within the PCAC meeting, we can invite the MTA police and the NYPD at the same time, because these homeless issues are getting more dangerously, and the concern of seeing people getting attacked. I'm not, yeah, we understand there's the Asian people getting attacked, but I'm also seeing homeless people. It doesn't matter what train line you're on. It doesn't matter. It's almost every single one.
Yes.
They're very disrespectful, and forgive me, I have to say this once only. They take their clothes off on the train, and it really disturbs me very
That's
much.
part of the being homeless. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a shame that we
But
cannot take care of these unfortunate individuals in this day and age. It's just a shame. Thank you, Chris. Trudy, your hand is up.
Yeah. Oh, it actually works. Star 9. Thank you. Yes. I said this at the TRC meeting, but I'd like it to go into these minutes also, and maybe we could, again, put something in writing, or I will. The fact that I know it doesn't seem that changing a word makes a difference, but calling Q, never thought I'd say anything positive
Q,
about
yeah.
someone named Q, but yes, that calling Q the Chief Accessibility Officer rather than disability makes a whole world of difference for the elderly, for mothers with baby carriages, with people who are, have some mobility different, but are not in wheelchairs or whatever. And it really does make, but especially for the elderly, having
Absolutely.
someone. Yeah, and so I think it's wonderful that not only that they hired him and brought him over, because I've only heard wonderful things about him and heard him speak, but also that they changed the title. So if we could make note of that, and if you want, Lisa, I will be happy to send. It was I think it's in the minutes, if I saw it correctly, of the TRC meeting.
Yes, and we will be getting Q as a speaker at some point.
Sooner rather than later, because he really is, having heard him speak, he is, when we have something positive to talk about, to crow about, to whatever we want to call it, I think we should, make note of that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trudy. Don't see any other hands raised, so let's move into the Long Island Railroad Chair's report.
Larry's actual hand is
Larry's
raised.
going to do it?
Larry's actual hand is raised.
Well,
Oh, I
I
don't
was
see
I was
actual
just going to
okay.
say something. I was just to say one thing about the homeless situation. And I don't know if Jerry's going to touch on this on his report. But we had recently at the Long Island Railroad Council meeting, we had the person who's the director of the homeless, and it was, I'll be nice, a very poor presentation of what they do. And she had all these ideas, but it didn't seem to be coming to brew on anything. I don't know, Jerry, do you have this as part of your report? Because I don't want to overstep you.
No, go ahead, Larry.
Okay, but so she just told us about what their plans are and things of that nature. However, we're not seeing any result of what the plan is as to what it is in regard to not just Long Island Railroad, but areas like the subway system underneath the 7th Avenue side, for example, which seems to be a big congregation point under 8th Avenue. But it was a very, very, I'm just going to say, it was a poor presentation. She had a PowerPoint that was like 4 or 5 slides. It was a very disappointing meeting that we had with her, to say the least.
Yeah, I think we need to follow up on that for a host of reasons. I've
Right.
noticed it. I've noticed it in Penn Station. I've noticed it at both subway entrances.
I
So
think that it's as much, and I see Stuart has his actual hand raised too. It's as much about the law as about what their ability, as about what their activities are. But there are far too few people at the MTA in charge of that office, who are on that office, and that has something directly to do with it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, nobody really knows whose jurisdiction is what, because we've got so many alphabet soups down there. And these people are coming in theory, they've got all these great ideas, but I have no idea how much their hands are really tied with the governments and with the agencies that are, at the station. And I think we should delve into that, or I don't even know how we could delve into that, because I don't know who we would contact, because the people who are supposedly running this organization, so to speak, are, I don't know, Lisa, what word can I use that's not sounds bad? Incompetent? I don't know.
was the speaker you had from the Bowery Residents Committee?
No, so I had reached out to the head of the Bowery Residents Committee, and he said that, they're under contract to the MTA. So Cynthia Wilson, who works in Patrick Barnes' office, is the person who heads up that office. And she
I see.
coordinates, she's the coordinator of all of the contracts with all of the police agencies that are involved. I mean, even just at Penn Station, that's 4 or 3, because Amtrak handles the New Jersey Transit's activities, but also with not just BRC, but also SUS on Long Island. And it's her and one staff person. And a lot of what the activity is in Penn Station comes from the outside community also. So, there are a lot of facilities and treatment facilities, but there are outpatient, and there's no, except when it's a certain temperature, law that requires anybody to go into a service. The fact that Kendra's law was passed but was not enforced, which requires anybody who's a danger to others, to themselves and others, to be engaged more than encouraged, is one aspect of it. And
Well,
the
there's
fact
several
that,
reasons they're in
well,
Penn Station.
and the fact that that there's a revolving door if somebody is arrested for a whole host of petty crimes that add up and then can be out the next day, with limited discretion on the part of the judiciary, is something that we keep hearing from the police. So, I mean, it's definitely a bigger problem than we are going to solve here. But it is a problem that affects everybody here. And I know Stuart has been very patient.
Yeah,
but
I am.
he's
It's
ready to weigh
related,
in.
it's related to what you're saying and what Larry was saying. But I'll speak in reverse. So the city has an outreach solutions team through homeless services. The person's name is Shane Cox. I don't know what the city is doing right now during the pandemic, but pre-pandemic, this group that Shane Cox heads up coordinates with sanitation, NYPD, and others to see that if individuals need assistance, they get that assistance. So I could send you, Lisa, his contact information,
Great.
because we're certainly seeing a resurgence of homeless on the surface.
Yeah.
And I've been in touch with his office on that issue. But I was going to ask a question before, and I don't know the answer, but I remember reading this vaguely. Wasn't the authority amending the rules of conduct to tackle this issue another way through how long you're in the system?
Yes, they did
Yes,
that.
and the size of what you can bring in. So that was challenged in a lawsuit
Okay.
by homeless advocates. I don't know where that is in the legal system.
Yeah,
I
and
know that
you're
that
supposed to be
was-
traveling, not just sitting and
Yeah.
letting all these trains go by. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
So is
I think it's being challenged, and that's where it is now,
Yeah.
so we're not enforcing it until the challenge is resolved,
adjudicated. Yeah.
adjudicated. Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
I think also that there was a change in the way the police interact with the homeless.
Yeah, they're not interacting with them at all.
Stuart, I thought you were going to talk in reverse direction.
No, I wanted to ask this question first about the rule and the status, but something, that Larry had said prompted me to think of, if there are issues at Penn Station or other venues in New York City, within the confines of the city, people should be reaching out to Shane Cox and his group to see what they're doing.
Well, and VRC, I mean, holds the contract everywhere. It's basically a monopoly. And we had reached out to the Office of the Inspector General, and in fact, need to follow up with them. They had done a report to see, looking at the contract that the MTA had with VRC and how that was being handled, and found that there were several deficiencies. And they were doing a follow-up report on that. So they were going to follow up with the MTA to see if those deficiencies were being addressed, and then we were, and then set up a time to discuss with us. And then I think they're looking at this spring to release a report. But
and whether, rather than this being considered punitive, getting the homeless out of the system so they have a decent place to live, they're getting medical and psychiatric services, is not punitive. It's a boon to them. I saw a homeless person passed out in a turnstile, which I had to report the other day, and had to have people come and rescue the person. So this is not good for them either.
The other thing
living in the
also,
system.
The other thing, Andrew, that in regard to Long Island Railroad specifically, there's now, besides Penn Station, we have an increase in physical space with the opening of Moynihan Station. So now you have X amount of square footage more where these homeless people are congregating, are moving into, I don't take whatever term you want. And the amount of people that are supposedly taking care of these has not changed at all. And I don't know what they're doing, but.
Well, I was in the Moynihan train hall a few times, and I noticed the police made sure nobody sat on the floor, whether you were homeless or non-homeless. You had to sit up. You had to sit in the seats, the seating that's behind the ticket window. So they're really watching that. But obviously, during this very cold winter, many people have gravitated to Penn Station. It's warm. You can be in there 24 hours, basically, if you keep moving slightly. And it's a shame, but we got to get a handle on this. And I'm sorry that the speaker you had didn't live up to it. We're gonna pursue it for sure, and we'll do it for all. It matters for Grand Central Terminal as well. So we're gonna pursue it for all of us.
Well, Grand Central Terminal does close overnight.
It does.
So I'm not sure as much even that it was the speaker as it is the services.
Yeah.
I don't know that she could do anything else. She doesn't have
Well,
staff.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I meant we need to get deeper involved in the issue.
Yeah.
Well, on paper, what she was saying sounded great, but putting it on paper and execution are two entirely different things. And I don't think she has the tools to execute what she wants to.
If we asked her where the sticking point is and what's preventing you from doing your job, would she give us an honest answer, do you think?
I asked her in a pre-call. That was just the two of us.
Oh.
And she basically said the laws are, the way the laws are written in New York is that you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do.
At this point, I think we have to wait for the IG's report to come out.
Yeah.
I think there was like 9 sticking points or something that they had. And even the lady even admitted that I think they only took care of 4 or 5 of the 9. So there's still points that they haven't been able to address yet.
Right.
Interestingly, the shutdown of the subway system did cause some of the folks who were living in the subway to get some help. We were told on a few different occasions that the number of homeless living in the subway system had diminished. That doesn't mean that you still don't see them and they're not all over the place, but some of them actually did accept some help.
Well, they also changed the kind of help that was being offered, the kind of services. Yeah. Christopher D. Greif has his hand raised.
He sure does.
Yes, because I want to add, and I definitely agree with Stuart also, as well as Larry. The one thing I've seen also in Penn Station that really disturbs me more with the homeless, they're smoking inside Penn Station. That really pisses me off very much. And forgive me to raising my voice. It's really not right. And the same time also, it's really not right, and they do it. And this is what I mentioned before. When I see passengers now, when I was doing mass was in Atlantic Avenue, I see more passengers going to Atlantic Terminal than going to Penn because they said of the homeless issue. And all I can say is I hope we can do something about this, and we can all as a team play.
Right,
because,
right.
And you know that
Well, Chris,
you know.
Chris,
Andrew,
you
hold
could
on,
always carry a water pistol, and then just.
No, I'm not doing, Andrew. I am not doing that. That's not professional, and that's an offended as another person from a disability. We don't know, that person might have a disability too.
I'm talking about putting out the cigarettes that way, Chris.
No, I am not doing that. That's not my job.
That was a joke,
NYPD's
Chris.
job.
Can we
I
move
know,
on?
I know it's a joke, Andrew, but I'm just very upset that mental health does not really. They say they're going to do something. It's all the talks. MTA is doing the best they can. I thank them. But again, is we really need to do something with the safety of customers, the safety of this, because we're dealing with coronavirus. Some of them don't even wear masks either.
Of course they're not. Of course they're not. We're well aware.
Yes,
Trust me.
I know you're aware, but the only thing I'm just going to add into my last sentence is Grand Central, it looks beautiful. Penn Station, I have to say, is if you're on the Long Island corridor, I do see the MTA police telling them you can't stay here, you have to go. But when you're on the Amtrak platform or Jersey Transit, as Larry said, 8th Avenue, I agree with him. But it's also when you're going up the escalator to the underground where the elevator right now is being renovated, right
Yep.
near Krispy
Yep,
Kreme.
we know.
That area is even worse. So we really got to push it up a notch.
We're going to keep on this topic. It's an important topic for everybody.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jerry, would you like to give your report?
All right. Well, everything's in the report, so I'll keep it kind of brief. The two real big items that we have, the most important right now is back in January, we took a 10% cut in service. And now March 8th, which is this coming Monday, we're going to take another 5% cut in service. And it seems like it's more than 5% because whatever little fluff that we had in the schedule is basically gone. We're looking at pretty much an enhanced weekend service. I mean, they will run some shuttles to Hunters Point, things of that nature, but we're taking a beating at this go around. We had a conversation. You were on it yourself with Phil Eng the other day. They're willing to add trains if necessary, or where there would be gaps. So I guess we have to go wait till Monday, find out what's going on, see if there are overcrowded trains, and see what kind of adjustments the railroad's going to make. Everybody, I know a lot of people question, like, why are they doing this now? I don't know whether it relates to the governor's raid of MTA funds, but Phil kind of alluded to the fact that he's getting some pressure from MTA headquarters that he needs to cut some costs someplace. As you know, all along, the Long Island Railroad has been under a lot of fire for the amount of overtime that they've spent. Most of the $15 million in savings they're getting out of this revampment is going to come from overtime savings. So again, right now it looks, we just saw this morning, Lisa sent something out that the electeds are starting to get involved. A letter was sent over to Pat Foy because I think that's the only thing that's going to make any kind of changes, because apparently it's coming down from either Pat Foy or Mr. Ferran that there's got to be some cuts, there's got to be some savings, and Phil's responding in kind.
It's called right sizing.
What's that? Right sizing.
It's called right sizing service. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that Phil did say was that, some of this is being done in response to the infrastructure work that they're doing. And we said, well, why don't you tell us what part of it is?
Yes.
And we
wouldn't
also
that be a better message to the public?
Yeah. And we also asked, what % of the savings are coming from overtime and for construction or infrastructure work, and what from work from the on-train conductors, et cetera. And he said that he didn't know and he would let us know. Obviously, the unions are upset because they're on one hand, they're losing overtime, but on the other hand, they're really concerned about crowding conditions. Jerry, we also just got an email today from somebody who is from Brooklyn, from Methodist Hospital in Brooklyn, that I'll forward to you, who's really concerned about the change in the schedule too. You've shared in your chair's report that you're gonna be spending more time on the railroad every day, and that's more time away from your family. It's not like you even get to have a railroad family anymore.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
no, it's
Right. It was always fun back in the day, but.
And Lisa, in reference to what you just said about somebody from Methodist Hospital, we also learned that the Brooklyn branch is going to have more work done on it. So that may mean a further suspension of service to Brooklyn at some point. So Methodist, the person who's riding the railroad towards Methodist hospitals, for sure going to be affected.
Well, we haven't learned that officially yet, so we're not talking about.
Okay.
Right. And Ron put in the chat about, has anybody done a review of how uneven the scheduling is? There was an unofficial analysis that looks at really pretty much how bad it's going to be.
Right, and Phil,
it's not pretty.
it's not pretty, but Phil did give this one little hopeful thing, which is their train time app is very up to the minute, and not only tells them where there is available capacity on the train, but they will have, if people are afraid due to social distancing reasons, they can ask folks, they can tell people before they board which cars are empty, thanks to this app, and then people can be spread out. But as Jerry mentioned, Phil did say, if it looks like it's getting too crowded, we can add service. And he was, Jerry, you want to say a little thing about when he was asked about summer service? Because that's a big time on the railroad.
Well, yeah, the railroad always adjusts schedules in the summertime. And, and he's indicated that, they're open to that depending on what the ridership numbers look like. But he also has to deal with municipalities.
Yeah.
Out in the Hamptons. Do they want a lot of service out there? Closer to the city, I know there's a problem or a concern with the city of Long Beach. And I saw that last summer, they actually said, don't bother coming.
It's residents only.
Residents only, you can't get on our beaches. And the railroad was nice enough to put that in their alerts, their service alerts. It's like, don't come to Long Beach because you can't get on the beach.
Yeah.
So, and this is something that they're going to be dealing with, throughout the summer. Hopefully when, more people get vaccinated, maybe things will lighten up a little bit, but at this point in time, they can't make any determinations.
No, I hope everyone does, and people are going to be really antsy to get outside again and go to the beaches and go to Eastern Long Island and be outside.
Just one other quick note for my report. The Long Island Railroad, there's been a holdup in receiving the additional M9 cars from the manufacturers. It appears there's been some sort of manufacturing defects. The railroad does not want to accept these cars until those defects have been ironed out. It's kind of one of those things, once you receive the cars, then you own them. Obviously, the clock starts ticking on any warranties. So right now, the railroad is holding the manufacturer's feet to the fire to get these resolved. One of the few benefits of having reduced service is that it's not as critical that we get these cars online. Right now, I don't believe we have any of the M3 trains in regular service. They're all sitting on the sidings. We're going strictly M7s. So hopefully by the time they get these bugs worked out, and we start receiving the M9s, will be about the time that we're going to be needing to put more rolling stock in play. And that's it.
Thank you, Jerry. Chris, is your hand up for Jerry, or it was still up from before?
No, up for Jerry. And I'd like to add something for Jerry. Jerry, adding with the Methodist Hospital complaint, there are a lot of people complaining at the Speonk station, because we have people who live in Speonk who go into Brooklyn. They're very disturbed of these trains because why are they terminating at Pashoff? Why can't you just terminate during the rush hour at Speonk? They're more upset. And and I know the fact that a lot of people are saying that, that means I have to go to the Macongo branch or drive their car to Pashaw and then take a bus to Babylon. They're like really upset because how am I supposed to get to work on time? How am I supposed to get home to have dinner with my family? And this is all the questions. And I'm talking about not just the regular customers. I'm talking about there are at least 5 to 6 people with disability and seniors who are using these trains even during the evening times like Friday. Now they're going to have to pray to get on a train because something goes wrong with that train. They're stranded, and we don't want to see that at all. So please, if you with anything you guys need, please, because we really do need. And regarding the Brooklyn division, Andrew, they do that on the weekends, and there are accessibility reroutes for the customers too. I know I've seen it because it's always I get an email from them.
Hopefully, but depends on the scope of work, obviously, how many days a week that it needs to be done.
Yeah,
they've been doing a lot of work on the Brooklyn branch.
Yeah, I know the fact they've been doing East New York.
That would be wonderful if they were renovating that station, but I doubt that they are at the moment.
No, they're working on the
next
roof.
one.
The roof.
The roof, yeah.
But it's not on fire, Andrew. I know you're thinking.
Right,
That.
that was in my head. Right, we have, so we have our guests are arriving. I know, Ron, you have a question, but Randy, do you want to provide your update? And then Ron will get to you, and then we can go to our presenters.
Yeah, that was exactly what my report's out there. If anybody has a question, I will answer it. We talked about schedules on the railroads before. While I was listening to you all talk, I looked through. We're running the same schedules on the east of Hudson line since that went into effect in September, and it's the reduced service on the 3 main lines: Hudson, Harlem, New Haven, sort of like a weekend schedule, extra trains. And on west of Hudson, since November 8th, they have the same schedules, which are the regular schedules. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of cancellations. In fact, PCAC Valley is getting murdered today because they had one train that failed and it delayed another one. And so they've probably have wound up with about half a dozen cancellations. Port Jervis has been terrible. And I'm just waiting to get some final numbers before I send it to Metro North. Our former member, Rhonda Herman, who's now board member representing Westchester, contacted me after she had notified Kathy Rinaldi about homeless occupying the White Plains station. And they had an internal meeting about it, but she didn't get she unhappily didn't get all the questions answered that she had, but they are stepping up patrols. But it's the same thing like it's in Penn Station, just like other places. They have no place to go and it's the cold weather, and the municipalities are just not stepping up. So I'll yield back my time unless someone else has a question. All right, thank you.
Hey, Randy, that was fast. And we saw you on your train yesterday.
Oh, that was fast.
Okay, Ron, Troy, did you still have?
Yeah, I'll do this very quickly. Port Jeff, every summer, the Cannonball, they strip the Port Jeff line, especially the direct Penn trains, to get the cars for the Cannonball, aka the drunk runs. And that really, maybe it won't have to be as bad this summer, but it's bad every summer. And I assume they're going to do it this summer anyway, but I don't know. And maybe we can find out. And the second thing, I assume if the M9 cars are being delayed, that the M9As that, we've been promised that are coming after the M9s will also be delayed. Also, we're supposed to at some point get new diesel cars and locomotives, which we've heard next to nothing about. But the question about them is, this time maybe will LIRR think about trying to see if they can get a design that will actually fit into East Side Access / Grand Central tunnels, instead of doing what they did last time and making them like 3 inches too tall to fit into the tunnels. There's enough time. They haven't built these things yet. As far as I know, they haven't even designed them yet. So, think about actually having direct access for diesel country into Grand Central from out east on Long Island. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else before we move to our speaker? Because we do have 3 minutes or thereabouts.
So I'm going to take up one of those minutes. For everyone else, I did want to, for those of you who don't know, I did want to just let you know that Sheila Benesh's last day is planned for next week, although that may adapt. She's had some family sadness, so her date may change a little bit, but not extensively. We're hoping, to be able to have an in-person gathering at some point, but even though she's not here, I do want to thank her for all of her time and for the white paper that she put out earlier this year, and for all of her work on behalf of riders. So,
and you should all know that we have put in a special appeal to the chief financial officer about getting additional staff, because we are legislatively mandated to represent riders, and if we can't get a suitable amount of personnel, we are not able to fulfill our legislatively mandated duties, and that is of great concern. And if that is the case, we would have to go to the legislature and ask them for some help, because we must be able to fulfill our duties. That's the reason we were created. We understand there are issues now, but we used to have 5 people. We can't be down to 1. It's ridiculous.
right. There's a technical term for what we are, but
Yes, there
we'll
is.
use that in polite company.
Right. So let's introduce Natalia Quintero, who is the director of the Transit Tech Lab. The Transit Tech Lab is a very exciting thing. It has the ability to really make your ride on whatever mode you choose, Long Island Railroad, Metro North, or New York City subway and buses, so much easier and predictable, and give you so much info in advance about your upcoming ride. The Transit Tech Lab is part of the Transit Innovation Partnership, which is a public-private initiative of the Partnership for New York City. And it's part of with the MTA, and it's part of the mission is to modernize travel on the system. It already does some of that, and we've seen some of it, but I think we're going to learn a lot more about the Transit Tech Lab today. So if Natalia is ready, we are ready as well.
Great. Hi, Andrew.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, and thank you all for having me. So as Andrew shared, my name is Natalia Quintero. I am the director of the Transit Tech Lab, which is, again, a public-private partnership initiated by the Partnership for New York City, which represents business leadership of New York City and New York State, and the MTA. So I'll provide some broad context for those of you who aren't so familiar with the Transit Tech Lab, and then we'll actually move into a more exciting part of the presentation, which is really actually introducing you to one of the companies that we recently collaborated with through the Transit Tech Lab, Knorr, which we have Richard Selmack and Tyler Bowie, who are here in a separate quadrant, and we'll be able to kind of speak to the work that they're doing. So if it's okay, I'll just maybe share a few slides just to kind of help visualize the structure.
You should be able to do that. I think I've enabled that for you. If not, just let me know and I will share mine.
Lisa, according to me, she's got very low bandwidth, so it might be better if you push the slides, because if she does, it's going to screw up her sound.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay, 1 second.
I'm happy to do it, Natalia, if that makes it easier.
Sure. You know what? Let's just try this. I just switched my internet connections. Is this any worse or better?
Let's see.
Does it help if everybody turns their videos off?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. We'll just give this a shot, and if it's too choppy, you can just let me know, and we can try something else. Okay, great. So we'll do that. So again, so just for broad context, the Transit Tech Lab is really just a vehicle that facilitates bringing in innovative solutions to our public transit system. What that really means is that we make it easier for cutting edge technology companies from around the world to be found by the MTA and other local transit agencies, and then to run quick pilot programs where they can test their solutions, and if they are successful, deploy those solutions at scale. So in 2018, we launched the Transit Tech Lab with the MTA. Since then, we've grown to collaborate now with pretty much every major regional transit agency, including New Jersey Transit, the New York City Department of Transportation, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Amtrak, as well as most recently the New York City Department of Education, pupil transportation specifically. So, you know, one of the exciting things of that for us is that, you know, there are a lot of you know, similar subject matter experts across all of these functional areas and transit agencies that can sometimes, you know, be solving very similar challenges, but in a very siloed way. Through the Transit Tech Lab, you know, we aim to bring similar subject matter experts together to collaborate and share notes on how we can be, you know, addressing these challenges together. So, you know, the way that we really do that is through challenges and challenge statements. So on any given year, we work with the transit agencies to understand what their greatest challenge and most pressing need is on any given year. Last year, to, you know, no surprise, this was our challenge, is obviously around you know, the pandemic and, you know, trying to understand how we could make transit safer, healthier, and more responsive, given, you know, the new conditions that the transit system is facing. We you know, presented this challenge to the public and ran a very competitive process where we did some market mapping to understand who were the different players across the United States and the world who were providing compelling responses to this question and engaging with transit agencies in compelling ways. And we received, you know, nearly 200 applications in response to this challenge. From those 200 applications, we had, you know, over 40 subject matter experts across transit agencies and from the tech private sector evaluate those applications, share feedback, and select 18 semifinalists. Those 18 companies then did pitch presentations to further elaborate on the solutions that they were, you know, presenting and the work that they were doing, you know, around the world. And from those 18 presentations, 8 companies were then selected to participate in what we call the accelerator. It's an 8-week proof of concept period where companies are paired with, you know, whichever agency selects them for a 2-month project, where they have that time to demonstrate that their technology can successfully, you know, address the original challenge statement that was you know, outlined at the beginning. Now, as you can see in the timeline here, that proof of concept period, the accelerator, concluded at the end of December of last year. The phase that we're in now is in, you know, selecting the companies that are going to move forward from that proof of concept period and finalizing, you know, the terms that we'll use to move into a year-long pilot. In that year-long pilot, we are able to, you know, work more closely to answer any unanswered questions, and then, you know, to potentially move forward into a broader, you know, commercial working relationship. You know, a few things that I would say just, you know, quickly have worked well so far in the challenges that we've been able to carry with the agencies that we've been working with is basically in being the facilitators of this entire process. So we try to take as much of the administrative, onerous, kind of time-consuming part this can take on to the companies or the transit agencies and do the heavy lifting so that subject matter experts just have to show up and do what they're good at, which is present their work and collaborate. So again, oh, sorry about that. My dog is a little excited. All right, so yeah, so again, we are following the accelerator. We're at this point where we're selecting the companies that will participate in the year-long pilot. And one of those companies is Kenora, who we have here and who will be able to walk us through some of the work that they're doing, not just with New York City Transit, who we carry the proof of concept with, but also across the different agencies at the MTA. Apart from working with the MTA, Kenora, through the Transit Tech Lab, has also initiated working with New Jersey Transit, and they're doing great work across the U.S. So with that, I'll pause and I'll turn it over to Richard and to Tyler.
Thank you, Natalia. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tyler Bowie. So I'm the engineer representing the Kenora and Merak group. And if I could get control that I could share my screen, I have a couple slides I'd like to share with everyone.
You should be able to do that. That's it. That looks like, that looks good. Okay, great.
Fantastic. Thank you. So great. Thanks again, Natalia. So it's been a pleasure working with the Transit Tech Lab and with all the different transit agencies. So we're very happy and pleased to be able to present here to the committee today as well. Our solution is a 3-stage air filtration and purification system. So we've been working, like Natalia said, with Long Island Railroad, Metro North, and New York City Transit, as well as working together with New Jersey as well. So basically, the problem statement for us is about as Natalia described, but for us, we saw a big need in the industry, the rail industry, as well as other sectors, specifically for safety and public transportation. So we know that COVID's a primarily aerosolized transmitted virus, so we wanted to have a solution that helps to really enhance the health and safety for passengers and crew. So that was our basic problem statement, and with that, we set out to develop a solution for something that didn't already exist to improve that safety in public transit, for COVID-19 specifically, as well as going forward with other virus, bacteria, and general air quality. So to give you a quick overview of what our 3-stage solution consists of, what we basically set about to do was something that's an easily retrofittable solution to any HVAC system, not only the ones developed by Merak, our HVAC division, but any other competitor or other products out in the market. We want something that fits in easily. Since it is a problem that needs to be solved immediately, it needs to be something fast. So we want it also safely contained within the HVAC unit so that it can run continuously throughout service without posing any additional risks or anything and improving the safety. And where we are currently is we have our first units fully developed, installed, and operational at different places and throughout the transits, including Metro North, Long Island Railroad on their M7 trains. And we have current developments going on for New York City and the R160 trains and the Metro North M8 trains. So what our solution actually is comprised of is 3 basic stages. The first of those is what we call our filtration stage. It's using a technology called intense field dielectric, which is in simpler terms an electrostatic filter that charges the air and then pulls all of those charged particles out of the air. The second stage is using ultraviolet germicidal irradiation with UVC light. So that radiates the air as it goes through, killing virus, bacteria as well. And the last stage is our MDBD, which is a dielectric barrier discharge device, which is simply an ionization type device with bipolar ions. So the ionization device treats the air as it goes through, as well as providing ions throughout different compartments where the air flows to provide additional treatment on surfaces and air within spaces. So we had a lot on the proof of concept that we're really pleased to present today. So we want to spend a little bit more of the time to talk about the results and what those 3 technologies proved out. So what we actually went and did was do some laboratory testing. So we did testing with an accredited laboratory using what's called the MS2 bacteriophage. And the MS2 is what's used by the industry as well as recognized by the EPA as the best type of viral indicator against COVID-19 as well as everything else. It's the toughest type of virus to eliminate. So we used that on collaborating together with a laboratory. We tested our different devices together as well as individually. And we found throughout our different tests that after just 5 minutes, it reached the same level of cleaning as a hand sanitizer would, being 99%, sorry. And then continuing on, it actually reaches closer to sterilization levels after a longer period of time, greater than 99.999998%. So we had some really great verification results in the laboratory, which told us that the technologies in our intended application work. And we have a lot of other live virus and bacteria testing that's been done here in the US as well as globally through our other divisions. So we've tested against a couple other things, including H1N1 influenza, staph infection, E. coli, bacteria, influenza, as well as general pollutants in the air, something practical like diesel fumes in a rail application, and as the general small particulate matter in the air. So as far as the laboratory testing, that's great. So we understood our technologies worked, and it's really what we're looking to do to solve the COVID-19 issue for public transportation. So we went ahead with our installations through the Transit Tech Lab, starting with Metro North and Long Island. So we installed our 3-stage system into the existing HVACs there, did a basic functional validation, ensured that they all worked properly, did general air quality measurements, including things such as mapping the ions throughout the train. So we were also able to verify that with the air distribution, the ions reach a very good concentration and a good level throughout the entire passenger compartment. And additionally, since this is something being installed in an existing application, we need to ensure that it's not going to be any type of additional burden in terms of maintainability or servicing. So we've also been looking at things like the lifetime of the devices, how long they last, and we found some really interesting things that the filters are actually lasting longer than the existing return air filters. So they have a better lifetime as well as providing that really high benefit of the air purification and filtration. And next, we also have some additional application testing that's going to be done by the EPA at their Research Triangle in North Carolina. So it was originally planned to start in March, probably starting sometime shortly after that. And they'll be doing additional types of testing against the MS2 and other types of aerosol testing and other baseline testing for future applications. So right now with our partnerships with the different transit agencies in the New York area, we have all of those systems running already, as well as building out those additional projects like we mentioned. So we're going to continue to monitor these in service, as well as build out the installed base for these and get a better number of them out on the fleets. And we'll continue evaluating these at the different 30-day intervals to evaluate the lifetime of them, as well as their efficiency over time. And then we have some additional things, obviously, including the air quality measurements that are going to be repeated throughout those intervals. So the next steps for us, what we're looking to do is really build upon the existing base that we've foundationed. So we have a good test result showing that the devices work fantastic, as well as starting with the installed base and revenue service. So we're looking to build this out, continuing those inspections we have already going on, as well as next starting the New York City project, which is currently underway. That's going to be another basically a retrofit conversion, which is almost complete and should be installed here shortly as well. And that's consisting of an additional new technology development for a more compact version for smaller HVAC units. So that's just a very quick overview on our technology. I really appreciate everyone giving us some time to present it today. We're very excited about it, and it's been a very great partnership. So with that, I thank you, and I pass it back over.
Thank you, Tyler. We tried to cover a lot of material very quickly, so we did want to just leave a few minutes for Q&A. And the last thing that I'll just quickly note is that these pilots, these proof of concepts, they are at no cost to the transit agencies. The goal really at the end of the day is to have a quick process that allows us to identify compelling technologies from around the world, bring them to New York, test if they're functional in the context of New York, and if they are functional, have a process to move forward with those companies in a validated way that is at no cost to the agency. So we're really grateful for Knorr's partnership in doing all of this work and supporting the health and safety of the return of transit.
This has really been great, Natalia, and I know that we have some questions. Is this the electrostatically charged particle air filtration system that Tyler was just talking about?
Tyler, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So I think you mentioned the electrostatic air charging filters.
Yeah.
If that was the question, then yes, that's the first stage of our system, basically. So that's what we're calling the intense field dielectric filter. And
when we had a presentation from Mark Dowd at one point, this sounded like this could be a game changer. It not only killed COVID, it killed germs down to the common cold.
Yeah, exactly right. And it sounds right. I think Mark Dowd probably did give a presentation there. So yeah, we've tested against a lot of different things. This could be a game changer. I mean, if successful, this could be put into schools, factories, homes, I mean, theaters, everywhere. Yeah,
That would be
absolutely.
great.
And actually, that's an interesting point. So we're actually looking at kind of the more industrial side of it. So Kenora, as you may or may not know, is based in the rail industry. So we're looking to expand that and really deploy these technologies, which are useful everywhere else as well. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Lisa, could you send those a copy of the presentation to all of us as well, if that might be possible when you get a chance?
Can I get a copy of the presentation so I can share? Oh,
Yeah.
wait,
Yes, I'll make sure you have it, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Larry?
Great job.
Larry, did you?
Lisa,
Larry, and then I'd like to add something after Larry goes.
Yep, sure.
Well, my question is, I guess it's for Tyler. The filtration systems that you have in place, how often do those filters need to get changed? Because ionization filters do get filthy rather quickly depending on their location and the amount of space between them. So how often do those filters need to get changed, and are they getting changed on the subway systems and the rail systems at that recommended rate?
Yeah, a very good question. So obviously, it's very important that we're introducing something that's going to be a product that's maintainable. So it's been one of the things we've been really investigating. And from our initial studies up in the New York area, they have currently a 92-day change-out interval for their paper filters. What we found when we replaced ours is actually that at the 92-day interval, they still have a significant amount of basically contaminant they could go for even up to possibly twice as long as those filters. So we found basically the pressure drop across them at the longest interval was far less than the existing filters. And another example in the Asia application, when they've used it, they also doubled their maintenance interval for the filters there as well.
One other question, and then I'll pass off to, I forgot who also, the numbers that were on the charts that you had, were they based on the 92-day interval where the test was done, or was that on a later date, a later timeline?
The testing was done in an independent laboratory in an aerosol chamber. So those were tests with basically the technology just installed on a test unit.
In a chamber, okay.
The one thing too to note from our end about the lifetime and the serviceability of the MIFD element is we're based from an EMU on a commuter for the M7s, M8s, M9s, etc. We'll be doing active live testing as well for when it does go into subway service, because currently the existing filters on, say, an R160 are replaced out every 32 days because the operational environment side of the car of a subway is significantly dirtier than it occurs on a commuter. So what we're doing is a case by case, and we'll address that as we learn when we install on the first R160 cars. So there may be a shorter interval for the TA applications.
That was my other question regarding the application in subways versus open air systems.
Yes.
Do you want to go, or do you kind of jump in for a sec?
Lisa, so I have a question. It had to do with maintenance of these systems. You're using a variety of technologies. I'm the health and safety officer for a government agency. We're exploring some of these technologies in office settings. So the question had to do, and I think Larry touched on the beginning, with maintenance of these components. So with UV lighting, do you have to change bulbs and other things with any regularity?
Yeah, so the UV bulbs are industry standard type of UVC, so they're replaced on an annual basis.
So you're doing
another interesting point for you being in the safety aspect of it. So we've certainly considered that UV is not something you want to expose people to. So we have it contained within the HVAC unit, and we've implemented safety interlocks so that anytime the HVAC unit is accessed, in the event the power wasn't already turned off, it's automatically cut off.
So you answered my next question. So thank you.
Sure. No problem. Thank you.
I had the opportunity to see the press conference at Metro North, where this technology was unveiled in the first car, and it was honestly, it was really cool to see it done. And my understanding was that this was actually developed in conjunction with a Metro North engineer, looking at the HVAC system. I don't know. It takes a village, right? Brilliant minds coming together to look at this. And at the time, it was not quite certain whether it could be moved into the subways because of the different kind of air circulatory system that was being, that's in that system. So it looks as though that has been resolved.
That's great.
Yeah, and that really makes a difference. But one of the questions that we'd had was about whether or not it's something that needs to be installed in buses. And buses, I guess, have less of a closed air system because windows can be opened. So is it something that is being considered for buses as well?
Lisa, yes, it is. From our point of view, it's an interesting time for us as a rail industry. I mean, Kenora, we're over 100 years old. I've been in rail for 20 years. As an industry, we've never had to actually address the problems of passenger health or look at that as a point of view. Safety, convenience, less dwell time, et cetera, organically. But we've never, ever, from an industry point of view, had to put our focus onto health. So, but you're right, it does take a village. And we've been moving so rapidly by harvesting lessons learned by our colleagues in Asia Pacific, in Europe, in parts of Italy, other parts through North and South America facing the same issue. So we're taking all the best technologies that we have available to put them together. And we do see trickle down applications. We have went into some initial discussions on bus application. Buses, for myself and Tyler, that's not our forte. We're both rail centric. I mean, that's what our passion and our careers have been. But to be able to trickle it down, especially since the lower voltages, these are very low voltage systems, are easily retrofittable to automotive or commercial over the road applications. We just haven't gotten there yet. We're working as well with other entities to see what other technology could be trickled down for static building applications, because the technology is also infinitely scalable. You can go up in size or down in size, because the one thing to remember here, the one thing we control on rail vehicles specifically is the return air. And as it's becoming more and more clear, as we're all learning more, is that if you can control the return air and the flow of air through the passengers, that is where the key is to control any type of viral or bacterial mitigation.
Great. And I know that there are other questions, but I had heard that I think it was $13 million to equip the entire fleet, Metro North fleet, and something similar for Long Island Railroad. I don't know if those are real numbers or not. Is it something similar for subways, or are those numbers like, gee, maybe it's about, but we don't really know?
No, we've been pretty open with an industry point of view from a commercial perspective is what we're targeting. Per, I believe it's roughly $6,000-7,000 per HVAC unit. So, there's 2 HVAC units per rail. If you scale down in size, and also economy of scale comes into play, and understand we've been looking at those numbers, or from what we're identifying with, and these are just the early stage prototypes with great product. And say myself and the team, Tyler, who's headed it, I mean, we made this reality in less than 120 days, which frankly is the speed of light in real time. So as we move forward and get more time and more energy and grow this globally, the prices obviously drop with economy of scale. I mean, our point is, yes, I do work for a for-profit organization, but it's the reality is that this is not also a product that falls under a normal rail type costing structure or a very specialized rail environment, because the larger it gets, the more it's installed and everybody benefits. And there is a very large egalitarian issue to it as well, that again, like I said, I mean, this is the first time from industry that we've actually all collectively tackled this program or a problem. Myself, I mean, the incredible support we've gotten from the engineering groups at the MTA. I mean, you could not ask for a better group of people, whether it's from Metro North, from New York City Transit, from Lear, et cetera, all putting our heads together to come up with the best solution to realistically protect the riding public, because that's what it's about at the end.
All right, we have a couple of more questions. Chris.
Yes, as I'm seeing your PowerPoint, I've seen this on the videos and stuff, the technology on this. The only concern that I know some people may be asking is, with all the filters that have to be clean when the buses are in their yards, or the trains are in their yard, and those filters get really very disgusting looking after a while, because they get all that dust from the tunnels and everything, or with trucks going nearby the buses, all that pollution. What is going to be your plan to dealing with, not just dealing with inside the bus, but some of the diesel trains that have some fumes, that it can actually be a way of not, some of us don't want to have to smell that anymore.
The filters themselves, and it was an interesting thing. We were actually doing testing at Croton, and there happened to be a P32 running next to us, and with the doors were opened. And the one interesting thing is, we had noticed that the diesel fuel or the diesel smell from the exhaust actually ended up disappearing. It's a secondary and tertiary benefit to it, the fact that it cuts down VOCs, sanitizes the air as it goes through. But otherwise, from a cleaning perspective, again, it's the same. Whether it's the hair, dander, debris that normally comes on with passenger loading, onloading and offloading, or tunnel and dust debris that occurs. But for the cleaning itself, the one nice thing, you also don't have to throw away, as now when the filters are changed out every 92 days, they're thrown away. So there's an environmental impact to the fact that you no longer have to, have 400,000 filters a year being thrown into landfills. The filter element, when it comes out, the MFID portion, the initial stage, goes into an ultrasonic cleaning tank to where it's run through, it's cleaned out, it's dried off, and it's reused. Hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody have any other questions?
Bert, Bradley does. I thought I saw Bert's hand is raised.
That was answered.
Yeah.
Bradley, then.
Yeah, thank you. So this is really great. Tyler, Natalia, Richard, this is really cool stuff. I was just wondering for transparency purposes, and you may not be able to answer this, as might be more of a question for the MTA, but during the pilot program, are you guys going to be providing updates at the MTA board meetings over the next 2 months during this pilot program, so that board members kind of know what the progress is and the public knows what's going on?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Natalia.
I'll just say really quickly that we generally provide updates on the program once we have results to share. So that's generally at the end of the proof of concept period, which is that 8-week period that we just concluded. There is publicly available kind of results and summaries of what each company conducted and what they were able to achieve. And going into the pilot phase, we will be announcing the companies that are moving forward across the different agencies, what the stated sort of goal is with each company. And once we have results to share, we are then able to present those results publicly as well. Generally, that's at the end of the pilot. We generally define a scope of work that takes the entire pilot period. But always happy to come by and share kind of progress on where we are with the different projects.
Awesome. Thank you.
If I could just expand a little bit of that. I mean, at the MTA level, that's way above my pay grade, for the MTA board one. But what we've been doing is the ongoing following up with the vehicles at every 30 days to see how they're performing, and that information is compiled in reports and provided with the respective engineering departments at each railroad for their review as well. So that way, we're open and transparent with that. So that way we know how it's working. We know the conditions of the filters. We map ion propagation through the vehicles, check the VOCs, the PM25s, 1.0, everything across the board from a, air quality point of view.
And when do sorry, go ahead, Larry.
No, I was just gonna say, the numbers are very impressive from the PowerPoint and from what you say. I have to tell you. That for a public transportation system to get down to that micron level, it's actually quite interesting, I have to say.
Yes. And when do the tests on the R160s begin, or have they begun?
We should begin R160 at the end part of this month, or the beginning part of next month. Unfortunately, the interesting thing about New York City Transit and HVAC systems is they use a very specific inverter that's directly in where the return air door is. It's also used for the cooling air through the inverter, unlike traditional commuters or EMUs. So we had to challenge all of our engineering team to make a grossly shrunken initial stage. We had originally tried some mock-ups putting in there with cut and paste from the EMUs, but it was too close. It had disrupted airflow. So we essentially had to go back and somewhat reinvent the wheel as we're learning along. So that should be starting. The units are in production now, being modified. So I was just on a call this morning with New York City Transit, and we should be installing probably the beginning of April for the first two R160 pilots.
And is it all lines that utilize the 160s or just a specific line?
I'm not sure which line it's going to go on. That'll be New York City Transit's discretion, but we'll probably be installing at Coney Island. What we'll be doing is, because it'll probably take about 2 days worth of work, because we want to make sure it'll be the first New York City Transit application. So we want to check them out. We want to do post installation. So we'll probably be installing them at Coney Island during when they go through SMS. And then New York City Transit will release them into service for those lines.
One last question. Does this technology hold any promise for use in stations?
Sure, it's infinitely scalable, but that's, again, it's
because stations being open, with tunnels and what have you.
As long you can, it really comes down to a mathematical equation for cubic feet per minute of what the air handling is versus the amount of MDBDs or size of MIFDs, because air is air. It doesn't matter. It's just that the technology is based on a rail car because we have large volumes that are controlled through 2 points. But you can move it into stations. You could move it into any building as needed, or even have it as small roll-around devices to put them in there, depending on what your application is. So you can scale up or scale down. But again, we're the rollout for us being rail centric is rail technology, and that's where we're starting. And I'm sure it's growing inside the scope. And it's not just within the confines of metropolitan New York. We have multiple railroads across the country that are coming online, and we've been queried with the same thing. Can we scale it up to our stations? Can we scale it up to our waiting areas? So
Sure.
That is a possibility. Again, it's a lot of people. I have been thankful, realistically, the amount of people that have put their time and energy into coming up with a solution to this new and challenging world.
Fabulous. And just one last thing. It is now early March. When do you think you would have, or anybody would have, a definitive answer as to the successfulness of this initiative and its wider spread use?
Well, we already know the technology works. We've run through multiple testings, as Tyler alluded to, with the microbiology labs that we've done. EPA has thankfully become directly involved, because to speak somewhat candidly, in our discussions with EPA, they said it's become somewhat the Wild West regarding things that could kill COVID or diseases, with a lot of unsubstantiated claims being made by multiple entities. So from our point of view, against the MS2, we know what the data is. We know what its performance has been against it. We know how it works in rail cars. So it could be realistically rolled out at a large scale at any point in time. We're running through the pilots now with the respective MTA agencies. So realistically, the next step will be, as far as if it suits the best solution for the MTA, because regardless of myself working from a private company, at the end of the day, it's whatever solution fits best for the passenger's needs.
Absolutely. Any other questions from anybody for Natalia, Tyler, or Richard?
Bert has his actual hand raised.
Okay, Bert.
This is really exciting, but my question is, what about the other 7 items that you're going through? When are we going to hear about those?
The other 7 pilots?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So 3 of the companies that went through proof of concepts are moving forward with the MTA specifically. The others are moving forward with regional transit agencies, be it Port Authority, New Jersey Transit. There should be a public announcement of the companies that are formally selected in the coming weeks. And then, as mentioned, we'll provide an update on the results at the conclusion of the pilot period.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Then let me thank all of you, Natalia, Tyler, and Richard, for a fabulous presentation, and we wish you, and therefore us, great success in this initiative.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us, and thank you, Nora, for your
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much, everyone. Have a nice day.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day.
And
Thank-
congratulations to Natalia.
Second that emotion.
We hope you have
Okay,
further
does
success with this
anybody,
program.
I'm sorry, Oren?
We hope you have further success with this program.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a great program that's been, that's been able to pivot quickly. Andrew, is that what you have to listen to every day?
I'm afraid it's been really bad yesterday and today. I'll mute myself at the moment.
Oh, no, I just, you've been saying it's been driving you batty, and I can hear why.
It has, and I'm in a totally different room now.
Yeah, they're following you. It's true.
What is that, Andrew?
There's construction next door to me.
Oh, thank God. I thought it was something else.
But the Transit Tech Lab has done some really interesting programs. They also launched the Signals Challenge that we haven't heard anything about lately.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to follow up with them on that. They had to pivot quickly to move to the COVID challenge. So Natalia's just taken over as she's just gotten promoted. Rachel Hout, who had been leading the organization, is moving to California with her family. So
they're funded by MTA for their projects, or is that?
it's a partnership, literally, with the partnership for New York City and the MTA. But there's no cost to the MTA for these pilots, which is even better.
Yeah,
But
well,
the funding for installation of this of the air filtration, if that's what happens, if it goes forward, would be on the MTA, unless say the FTA comes up with some kind of grant, or through the US DOT. There's a program under RITA, which is the research and innovation technology side of it, that could fund it. But that's a whole different conversation for a whole nother day.
Well, as an engineer, I look at those numbers. Those numbers are actually quite impressive.
Oh yeah.
And
The
if
fact
it's
that
all
they're able
true
to
and it works,
shrink it to subway size is really kind of is great
somebody
too.
could invest money in if they're a public.
I don't know if that makes it insider trading or not, but
Isn't Nora public?
I think that's the soup company.
Well, I know, but isn't, all right.
Nor break. This is no break. Yeah.
They may be.
All right. Does anyone have any issues they would like to bring up under new business? Hearing none.
Andrew,
is
this is Chris. I was raising my manually hand.
Okay. Now you
Andrew,
decided to raise your regular hand. You've been raising your virtual hand.
I could do both, but I'm just.
That's okay. Go ahead.
And Andrew, just to, one thing I did forget, we maybe forgot, I have to say that, did you guys get the numbers, how Mass Force did last month's numbers?
Lisa might have gotten that.
The numbers from
Mass Force, or if Kathy's still with us, oh, she is still here.
Yeah. The number of total people?
Well, I already know total people in Coney Island. We were a full house of all 4 tours, but
yeah, I don't know what it is. Kate, I don't know if you know what it is. I know that my one friend and I handed out we handed out 700 masks in 2 hours.
Wow. What's the question? I'm sorry.
The total number of masks, or the total number of mask enforcers?
Yeah, we don't have that. I can look into it. There was a press release
right,
that had, the compiled information. I'll put that in the chat in a second.
And the next
one
is
March 18th. It's pretty successful.
Yeah, and the next one is right around the corner, March 18th. You are all welcome and encouraged to join us.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. I was right on something.
We haven't put out a release yet, but March 18th will be the next one.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. Put that date on. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
just got confirmation in the last couple days. It's fun. You're all.
It is fun. People are really appreciative of it. Some of the most appreciative people are the folks who work in the stations and work on trains, and people who live on the trains, unfortunately, as well. And Larry, I don't know if this is what your hand is raised in response to, but I did reach out to Hector at the railroad and say, when are we going to do a mass force on Long Island? And he said, let's just do it ourselves. So if anybody's up for it, then we can, and in Metro North territory too. You know, if you guys are willing to meet up one day, I will meet you too, and we can hand them out. So.
Yeah, the only thing I know, Mass Force and Atlantic, when they do the Atlantic one, we do the Long Island Railroad platform. I know that Times Square was also doing Penn Station. So, but
I know, but it's different if you're doing it, you know.
In the city, I'm just talking about the city. No, you're right about that, Lisa. But in Long Island, that's one thing I mentioned. When are they going to do Long Island? Because I got people asking me that too.
Right. So. And Larry, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just have one last thing, and I know Lisa's got so much on her plate, but I want to add one more thing to it. I'd like to make a motion that we just send a certificate to Sheila from the PCAC in appreciation for all of the work and everything that she's done over the past few years.
I second
That's
that.
lovely. Thank you.
I second that also.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, we got a tiebreaker.
I don't think there's any opposition.
Right. Thank you. I will do that.
We will definitely do that. Any other business to come before the joint committees?
I do have one thing. So one of the issues that has been raised here before, and that that Jerry has been very hot on for the past number of months, is WageWorks and Transit Check, and the fact that, you know, people are unable to get their benefit dollars out of there. And I'd reached out to Representative Kathleen Rice's office on it. I have gotten the New York Times interested in doing a story on it. So they are looking to talk to people who have their money trapped in Transit Check / WageWorks. We have somebody from Long Island who had reached out to us who has over $1,000 trapped. But you know, they want to talk to more people. So anybody you know who has their money and can't get it out, please let me know. Who's willing to talk to, you know, the Times next week? Please let me know. You know, ask your friends, because it is a big issue, and we're coming up to a year where you know, use it or lose it is happening.
Yeah.
Lisa, question. When you say the checks, are you talking about those credit card ones?
Yeah, it's where you get your money put in, you know, taken out of your check or your benefits, and it's pre-tax dollars, and it's through WageWorks or Transit Check. So there's no means through there's no refund mechanism.
No way to get it back right now.
Because it's pre-tax, and so it goes through the IRS, and that's Kathleen Rice's office has been working with them, but it's just not a mechanism. So, you know, it is a national issue. So hopefully the great lady can help, you know, push that issue.
Because Lisa, to answer that question, because I know in fact that someone also had that minor issue, and now they're using the Omni app, where they merged that to their Omni app, and it's been working.
Yeah, but not everybody is back on transit.
No.
Yeah,
I'm using it as an example. I know not everyone is back, but what I'm saying is, and you're correct, that is an issue.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying right now, the people who are working, who have it at this moment, I'm saying not all everyone, but some are doing the app linked to that credit card. It's been
you can do that if you have that ability.
It's so far. I have to tell you, they said it's so easy. They could just go boop, and then a boop on the bus, a boop on the train, and don't think of anything else, Andrew. I know you're thinking of.
Yes, I know.
Don't forget, a lot of people are still working from home and they're not commuting anymore. So
correct. Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I said the word some.
It's those people
That's a
that
big problem.
Right. No, Ron, I know that Tom Swazi's office is involved in it as well. Kathleen Rice is the one who, I guess, put it together and spearheaded it, which is why I had started with her office. But I'm going to, she reached out to the Treasury Department, and then she had actually one of her staffers had a call with the IRS a few weeks ago. So that's why I'm trying to circle back around with them first.
And I think Tom is well aware of it.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him too. Francine, did you have something that you wanted to say?
No, I'm just in agreement with you guys. With the comments that were made, there's still many people that aren't commuting, and I myself am one. And I have money trapped in the account as well. I have over $1,000 that I'm not doing anything with, and I'm waiting.
So I know how much you'd like to
moment,
talk to the press. So please let me know if you've changed your mind.
I don't mind talking to the press about it.
Oh, great. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, between the Metro North and the subway, I can't do anything with that money there.
Okay.
But I haven't been notified that we're going to lose it just yet. It just rolled over last year into this year, and everyone's kind of like on standby.
Right. This particular person has an expiration date on his cards, and in order to get new cards, he has to pay money.
Oh wow!
Or he loses it. So.
Oh,
it's
that's
like, but it's my money. And one of his friends didn't realize that the cards were going to expire. And once they expire, that's it, they're gone. Yeah. So then you can't get them back.
That's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Terrific, thank you.
Anyone with any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, then I believe the motion has it. Don't hear any objections. Thank you all for being here. We look
Thank
forward
you.
to the success of this program, and stay safe, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Thank you.
Bye.